Alright, I'm going to be benchmarking the Intel Xeon E3 1230 in the finals. I'm pairing this CPU with 24GB of DDR3 RAM at 1600MHz, and I'm using a GTX 970 with the newest graphics card drivers available. I should also add, this is a 4-core 8-thread CPU. It was released in 2012, and it is slightly slower than the i7-3770. I'm starting off at 1080p on the low settings with FSR set to quality, and I'm going to be sticking to 1080p with quality FSR. The reason why is resolution doesn't really affect the performance in this case, unless it goes and maxes out the graphics card, which that would make it a graphics card test, not a CPU test. We're sticking with the CPU test. Either way, at 1080p on the low settings with FSR set to quality, the game was getting 62 frames per second with a 1% low of around 40. And being a FPS shooter game like it is, you kind of want 60 plus FPS all of the time, so that isn't ideal, but at the same time it's not stuttering either. The 1% lows are actually reasonable, so there's that. I also tried the medium settings and it dropped the frame rate by what appears around 3 frames per second, though it's hard to get consistent results on here because, well, I'm dying pretty much every 5.5 seconds, and it's hard to be in the exact same spot and actually test every single setting out on the exact same frame. But it turns out, yeah, the frame rate drops about 3 frames per second from low to medium, so it's not really worth going to medium settings. And outside running around, it does drop pretty drastically. It went down into the low 40s and upper 30s for the frame rate, which actually is pretty low. This happened on the low settings as well. The high settings appear to drop the frame rate another roughly 5 frames per second from the same frame from medium to high, which is a rather drastic down improvement? Sure. It's a rather drastic down improvement compared to medium, especially when the frame rate's already this low. And that is 8 frames per second lower than on the low settings. I also tried the epoch settings, and the epoch settings don't really affect the frame rate at all actually. The frame rate stays about the same. It might be 1 frame per second lower, but all in all, it's basically the same performance as the high settings, so if you're CPU limited, I guess you can go to Epic and you don't have to worry about the frame rate going any lower. Though the low settings in this game are the best settings, especially if you're on a lower computer end. Lower computer end? What does that mean? If you're on a lower end computer, I recommend the low settings in this game. Even on the higher end computers, I recommend the low settings. You get the best frame rate in them. Plus the game looks good on low anyway, so there's not too big of a reason to go to epic or medium or high. Maybe medium's a nice middle ground, but yeah, I'd stick to low. Hopefully this video was entertaining or informative, or both, better yet. Either way, thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.